Welcome back, you lovely bunch. Thanks for tuning in again. I hope you're all doing good. Right, today we're going to be talking about wheel size. You've got your new gravel bike, you want to upgrade the wheels. What size do you get? Do you get a 650 or do you get a 700? Firstly, let's just get this out of the way. A 700C wheel is the same as a 29-inch wheel, so 29 inches in diameter. So as you can see straight away, the 700C does sit a lot higher. It's got a much larger diameter than the 650B. But what does this larger diameter mean? How does that translate into riding? And which one would be best for your riding style? Because the reason you would pick 650s, I think, over 700 is your riding style or the terrain where you live. So these wheels are very similar, almost identical apart from the size. Both DT Swiss hubs laced to a stay rim, both the same spoke pattern, the same number of spokes. Both have a disc set up on them, albeit a slightly lighter one on this one. Only difference is the tyre and the size. So I think most importantly, and a lot of people are interested in weight and all that stuff. Let's weigh them. Let's see the difference in weight. I would think that the 650 would be slightly heavier. There we go, 1530. And that's a 650 with a 47mm tyre. And there we go, can you see that? 1450. So you're talking about 100 grams weight difference. So straight away, there's not a huge difference between the two. So why would you run 650s and not 700s? So a 700C wheel is the most popular wheel size for gravel bikes, road bikes, for everything now. I mean, even mountain bikes are mostly running 29ers, which are the same diameter as the 700. So the 29er or 700 is definitely the most popular wheel size. And I would say for most people, it's the wheel size you want to run on your gravel bike. So what are the main differences? A 650 wheel has much shorter spokes. See, so it'll be much stiffer, whereas the 700 has longer spokes, gives you a little bit more flex. But because the 650 is a smaller wheel in diameter, it means you can fit a bigger tyre in your frame. So I'm restricted to like a 45mm in my gravel frame in a 700, whereas I can get a 50mm 650 tyre in. So those few millimetres make a big difference because you can run a lower pressure, therefore making this slightly more comfortable. So the 650 is a stiffer wheel, but you can run a wider tyre, therefore giving you a little bit more comfort. But this does bring me on to a bad point of the 700C wheel. So you're restricted by the tyre width. Everyone is running wider tyres, wider rims, and most frame companies are accommodating for this. And you'll see wider clearances in frames as a result of this. So one of the bad points for me is that I can't run that wider tyre. I'd love to run a 50mm gravel tyre in my frame, and I can get it in there, but it's a bit of a squeeze when I'm running a 700. Whereas if I'm running a 650 as a 50mm, loads of room, loads. And if you're running a wider tyre, you do increase the chance of toe overlap, which means that when your pedals are forward and back, your toe can just catch on the edge of the tyre, which can take you by surprise and get a little bit sketchy. I personally don't notice this that much on my gravel bike. I think I do have a tiny bit of overlap, but it's so insignificant, and you only really notice this when you're going at a very, very slow speed. But for some people, especially if you're running a really small frame, you will end up with a lot more overlap if you're running a 700C wider tyre than if you're running a 650. And I suppose that's when 650s will come into their own. Like if you are a smaller rider, I would say you want to run 650s. It just makes perfect sense. It will give you like less overlap. Like when everything's been compacted on your bike, your foot's going to end up hitting like the wheel like here, and then you're going to have some like sketchy over the bars moment. A lot of the time people do say that you can run a wider tyre on a 650, therefore the outside diameter isn't that greatly different to that of a 700. I'm going to be honest, it really is. It's quite a large difference. I mean, I'm running 47 and a 44. Not a huge difference in size, but there is like a massive difference in like the actual height of the tyre, which then affects the handling of the bike. So this will raise or lower your bottom bracket. You're running a 700, it will put your bottom bracket at like a higher place than if you were running a 650. Like this tyre is about that much shorter than my 700s, so therefore it lowers my bottom bracket, which also, when my pedal is right down, lowers that to the floor. So you have to be more aware when you're riding technical things or like a gully where it's got like very rocky edges, because I can hit my pedals when I'm pedaling on the 650s, whereas I wouldn't hit them on the 700s. Terrain, see, this is the thing, and this is where 650s come into their own. A 650 can handle the most gnarly terrain. There's things that I can ride down on these that are almost pleasurable that would be unbearable on a set of 700s. So because the tyre is slightly skinnier, I'd have to run a higher PSI. I don't want to pinch flat or any of that sort of stuff, or I don't want to like burp the wheel off the rim. So I would be rocking a higher PSI on the 700s than the 650s. So it'd mean that those more technical terrainy like rides, like Grinduro for example, would be a lot bumpier on a set of 700s. But the thing is, on most gravel trails, a 700c set of wheels is just faster. It's faster than a 650. 650 to me means fun, technical, awesome, gnarly trails. 700, that's just proper gravel trails. So if you're riding more like mountain bike stuff, 650s. You know, if you're a smaller rider, 650s. Absolutely amazing. But for most of my day-to-day gravel use, a 44mm gravel tyre is more than enough to handle most things. 650 to me is more for the extreme terrain. And I say extreme terrain, it's when you're taking your gravel bike on essentially mountain bike trails, and you probably should be riding the mountain bike. But we don't want to ride mountain bikes, we want to ride gravel bikes, and that's why you might look at a 650. But do be aware that, yeah, it will lower your bottom bracket. It will change the height of your bike. It will also change the feel. It will make your bike accelerate slightly faster, see? Smaller wheel size, smaller diameter will give you a better acceleration. Whereas a 700, not as good acceleration as a 650, but it will hold its speed slightly better. So if you're doing like a long 100-mile gravel ride, race, whatever, that's not that technical in terrain, riding the 700c would be faster than a 650. A good example of when you'd use what wheel is the Atlas Mountain Race. It's a long distance, multi-day cycling gravel race over in, I think it's in Morocco. Wherever it is, the Atlas Mountain Race has some awful like terrain, like some amazing terrain, but also some awful one. And I did notice that a lot of people are either on mountain bikes or they're running 650s, because if you're doing that multi-day event and you're taking a beating all the time, you're going to get fatigued, you're going to get tired. And a 650 wheel, whilst it's slower on like road sections, it's slower on like more packed gravel, you get a much more comfortable ride because you can run a lower pressure, you get more grip, you've got less chance of punctures, all that stuff. So for an ultra distance race that I thought most people would be running a 700, just a wider one, a lot of them are actually rocking 650s. I was meant to do a very concise like comparison side by side, but I just kind of digressed into the usage. So quick comparison, 700c is bigger, it's lighter. This is better on flat pack, hard gravel, like light gravel, or even more extreme gravel, but not anything really rocky, rooty, gnarly. This is better on rocky, rooty, gnarly stuff. This is better for the fun days out, and this is better for the fast days out. The larger diameter of the 700 also raises your bottom bracket height, so that gives you more pedal clearance and less likely to have a pedal strike. It also gives you an increased chance of overlap, whereas the 650 decreases your chance of getting pedal overlap, but also increases your chance of having a pedal strike. The 700, it has longer spokes, therefore it is slightly stiffer, but you can't run as lower pressure in the tyre because they're not as large as the 650s, so it's a flexure wheel with more pressure in the tyre, whereas this one is a stiffer wheel with less pressure in the tyre. So they're kind of opposites in a way, but that ends up cancelling each other out. So there's like pros and cons of both of them. The weight, like I said, is like negligible how much difference it is. But in short, if you're wondering what wheel set you want to put on your gravel bike, I honestly would say go for a 700. It's a really good all-round wheel. You get a lot more tyre choice. Like most people are not going to be riding like downhill trails, so do you really need a 650? I know some people love 650s, I personally love a 650, but they have their place. Whereas like for general everyday all-round use, you're going to get more use out of a 700 than you would do a 650. So that is the differences between a 700c gravel wheel and a 650b. So let me know down below, which one would you pick? What one are you rocking? If I could only pick one, it would be the 700. I'd pick the 700 with a nice 45mm tyre. Job done. Right, remember to like, comment and subscribe. Thank you as always for watching, and I'll catch you guys very soon. Bye.